The stream is live. All right. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you might be right now or whenever you end up finding this video. Hi, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Maria Wickvila, and I am a 2005 graduate of Harvard Business School and the founder of ApplicantLab.com. And it turns out that today what we're going to talk about is the Harvard Business School interview. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that we have, I think, 45 minutes for this session. And what I was thinking is I'm going to sort of sprint through a bunch of information to try to leave room at the end for questions, because at this point, I'm not sure, like, what are your questions? And so if I don't cover them right now in the slides that I'm giving, please, wait till the end and then type them in, and I will try to get to them. Okay, so with that out of the way, real quick, in case you didn't know, about 20% of applicants are invited to interview, and of those, roughly half to maybe a smidge over half are actually given offers. Now, I do want to say that there is sort of this misconception that means that once I get to the interview stage, it's exactly essentially 50-50. That's not entirely true. Some people come into the interview stage with higher chances than others. So there are some candidates out there that are so incredibly strong that the interview is more of like okay, let's just make sure that they're not some sort of serial killer. And there are other people who it's like, well, we're probably not going to let this person in. We have some real concerns about the profile, but we think they could work. So let's bring them in and see. It either is going to confirm, or maybe we'll be so blown away and pleasantly surprised by this person. Like, they're so much better in person than they are on paper that we're going to let them in. But so just to be clear, like, some people entering the interview have a higher than 50% chance, and other people have a lower than 50% chance. So hopefully, I know that this is, I don't know if this is the message that you want to be hearing, but why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this to try to take some of the pressure off of you. It's not like, oh my gosh, if I don't have the most amazing interview in the history of interviews, that's it, it's over. Some people have interviews that don't go as well as they were hoping and they still get in, and other people knock it out of the park, but unfortunately it's just not quite enough to bump them up into that admit pile. So on the one hand, that might be a little depressing, but on the other hand, my hope is that it helps maybe take some of this pressure off of you so you don't feel like this is the most high stakes thing in the world. Okay, so super quick, in case you're not familiar, I'm gonna breeze through this because I'm going to assume that you already know this, but in case you don't, the HBS interview is different from any other school's interview. There's no other business school that has an interview quite like this. So in most other schools, in advance, the interviewer is only going to have your resume, and they might look at it for 5, maybe 10 minutes if you're lucky, but probably they're just going to skim it. The HBS interviewer, on the other hand, will have read every single line in your application file. I mean, any bullet point on the resume, but far beyond that. Any description you gave in an essay, any, like, those little boxes where it's like, describe your greatest challenge at work, anything like that. Any line from your recommenders might be used. They might even ask something like, hey, I saw that you took a 20th century jazz appreciation course your freshman year of college, even though you were a chemical engineer. Like, tell me about that. Why that elective? So anything in that written application is fair game. Now, at other schools, sometimes an AdCom, by which I mean an admissions committee member, might be doing the interview, but very frequently it's either an alumnus, alumna, or in many cases a second-year student that has been trained by the admissions office on how to do interviews. At HBS, they really don't ever do that. It is always an AdCom member. And sometimes it's even more than one, and I'll get to that in a second. But what is the difference? Like, what does that mean? Well, it means that the good news is some people are intimidated by that. They're like, oh, I'm kind of nervous. But the good news is that it means that you're getting someone who's very, very professional, someone who has been trained in how to do these interviews. Sometimes when you do an alumnus or alumna interview with a school, those can sometimes be wild cards because sometimes the alum's having a bad day or the alum doesn't really remember, what some of the things are. And so the most variable experiences often happen with alums. The good news is if you get an AdCom, which you're going to at HBS, you're basically guaranteed a very professional level of inquiry. The duration for other schools, not always, if you hit it off with a person, could be 30 minutes, could be 60 minutes. It sort of depends on their schedule. HBS interview, the interview is exactly 30 minutes. They will end at 30 minutes. And why is this? There's a lot of reasons. I'm going to get into some of those in a second, but one of the big ones is the issue of fairness. They know that people are probably comparing notes. And if one person has a 22-minute interview and one person has a 46-minute interview, that people are going to try to read so much into it and they're going to say it wasn't fair. No. Everyone gets exactly 30 minutes. So that way it is as fair and as even and as level of a playing field as possible. Now, how many questions are going to get asked in the course of an interview? This is sort of a rough guess, but in the most sort of traditional alumna, second year type interviews, you might get through maybe 5, 7 questions. The HBS interview is much more fast paced. So not only is it probably perhaps shorter than some other interviews you might have, but they are going to go through questions bum, 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 bum. And then afterwards, you will send, in another school, you would just send a very kind of like generic little thank you for your time, blah, blah, blah. At HBS, it's the thank you note, but it's a higher level of thank you note. They give you 24 hours from the time of your interview to submit something through the portal called the post-interview reflection. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but the post-interview reflection, it serves the same purpose as a thank you note, but not really. Like, it might seem like a thank you note, but it really isn't. It's basically your chance to have the last word in terms of what happened. It's not like, thank you so much for your time. You're such a good interviewer, and I want to marry HBS. So the main question behind almost any question that you get in your HBS interview is this person the real deal? Or did they maybe exaggerate on paper who they are? Did they maybe say something, and I see this a lot with the career vision, did they say something that they think we want to hear? And they didn't really mean it because maybe deep down in their hearts, they don't believe it, but they're like, are they fronting? Are they inauthentic? So basically, one of the core questions, and they're trying to get at a lot of things, but at the foundation of all of the different types of things that they're trying to get at is this person the real deal? Are they authentic? Or did they just write really nice essays, but in real life, they're not quite so, they don't quite have that substance. So again, as I said before, nothing's off limits. The resume, those little job descriptions you wrote, the little just, oh, what did I do? What was my greatest challenge? Even the little boxes for like extracurricular activities, awards and distinctions. So basically, in the interview, you might say, well, I already wrote, Maria, I wrote so much in my application. What more could they know? Well, in the interview, it's going to be less about what did you do and more about how did you do it, right? You said in your essay that you convinced the CMO to, invest in TikTok marketing. How did you do that? Things like that. That tends to be more trying to get at the depth of what you actually did and more like how you did it. Another thing that is often asked, but not always, is the stated career goals. Now, if you're watching this, I hope it's because you applied to HBS and you got the interview, in which case, by the way, congratulations. I should have started with that. But so as you might remember, in your HBS application, there's like that 500-character box to describe your career goals. This is the career goals box is the number one place that I see people shoot themselves in the foot. Because they will say something in the career. This is the one where most people will, if they fall into the trap of, I'm just going to tell them what they want to hear. It's in the career goals box. This is the most common place I see it, where someone will say something like, well, I'm a chemical engineer, or whatever. I'm a mechanical engineer working for an automotive company. But I know that data centers are really hot right now, right? So I'm going to say that I'm going to switch to data centers because if they hear that, they're going to say, oh, this person's part of like this growing thing. You need to be ready to defend that, right? If you're a mechanical engineer saying, I'm going to work in something with a data center industry, prepare to be grilled. Prepare for me to say something like, what does your background have to do with data centers? How did you get interested in this? Why do you think they're going to hire you? Anyway, so anything like that, and this is why it's so important, hopefully, if you did use Applicant Lab to prepare your written application, you knew better than to fall into this trap. But in case you didn't, just realize that if there's anything in your career vision that might make them stop and say, wait, what? Like, what? Huh? Then be ready to have a good answer for it. Be ready to explain how that leap makes sense. Or how did you come up with that? Or you said you wanted to do, there was once one that I saw where someone was throwing in all these diversity and inclusion buzzwords in something that really didn't, there's a lot of things that where diversity and inclusion do make sense. This one, it did not make sense. And I was like, so what exactly does that mean? And then in the mock interview debrief afterwards, they were like, yeah, no, I just put that in there because I thought it sounded, and I'm like, yeah, no, it's clear that that's what you did. So we can't go back and change it. So we right now need to figure out what your answer is going to be if you get asked that. And in fact, this client was asked that during the interview. So going back again to who your interviewer is, I touched upon this a little bit before, that the fact that every interviewer is an AdCom member, usually an HBS alumnus or alumna. A lot of former HBS folks do end up working in the admissions office at some point. And so the good news for you is that you're going to get a professional shake. You're not going to get someone who's like watching cat videos on their phone, or they're not going to ask like an inappropriate question the way you sometimes hear in these alumni interviews. And then also, I mentioned this before, there's often, especially if you go in person, a note taker in the back. This is not so much for the online Zoom ones, but definitely for the in-person ones. If you happen to go to campus, there will often be a note taker in the back. And the note taker's purpose is, first of all, they tend to be a more junior person who's in training, but also, I have this point right here. Their goal is to help the interviewer fully focus on the conversation, right? If the interviewer is also taking notes, trust me, if you get someone and you're like, oh, there's no note taker here, does that mean I'm not going to get as good of an interview? No, you're going to get a great interview. But the interviewer can focus even more of their energies on the conversation if they don't have to worry about writing down what you say. So I covered the good news. The good news is that the AdCom member is going to be professional and trained. The slightly less good news, well, for some folks, this might not be as good news, is that these interviewers are really smart. And I don't just mean that they can solve the derivative of x squared equals y. I mean, like, they are really book smart and they are really business smart, right? You can expect that the interviewer, probably reads the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times on a regular basis. You can expect that they will understand your industry. So if you go in there, and again, this goes back to the career vision thing. If you're like, well, normally at Chevron where I work, it's really rare for this thing to happen. They've probably also interviewed hundreds, if not thousands of other applicants, many of whom, if you're working for a big company, have a background very similar to yours. So again, any temptation you might have to embellish or kind of BS, like, don't do it, because there's a very good chance that they are going to catch you. These people have gold medals in detecting BS. So if you had anything that's BS-y in your application, I get it. I understand it's human nature. You kind of want to impress them. So you're like, maybe I'll exaggerate a little bit what I did. Okay, it wasn't great, but if you get asked about it, now you have to be ready to explain exactly what you meant. So you can expect your AdCom member basically to be a lot more knowledgeable about your field than perhaps just a random alum or alumna that gets picked. Now, one thing to keep in mind, HBS loves brevity. They love brevity in their essays. That's why their essay sets are so short. They love brevity in the career vision. That's why it's only 500 characters. Overall, this is a school that really loves brevity. And that's why, another reason, they try to pack so many questions into 30 minutes. And you might be asking yourself, but Maria, I did an interview last week with another school, and the first 15 minutes were just introductions of me walking them through my resume. And there was 10 minutes of that. I don't know how many minutes, but sort of thinking, how am I supposed to fit? Is it really like 10 questions or more? How is that going to fit in 30 minutes? Well, there are some things that they do to make sure that things are sort of humming along. One is there is almost never a walk me through your resume opener. Most other schools will start with, hey, introduce yourself to me, or walk me through your resume. It's all meant to be sort of a walk me through your resume. They might phrase it differently, but they all mean walk me through your resume. HBS almost never
Yeah, guys, please wait. I think there is some glitch. We are fixing it. In the meanwhile, please post your questions in the Q&A tab and we'll take them shortly. Uh, Hi Divyansh, Pathak 521. There is Tech PM internship that they provide. I think the date has already passed. It was posted. The last date was 28th of January, if I'm not mistaken. And you may have got the information regarding the same on your DM, but you can circle back to the sender who had sent you uh, and see if any spots are open. Hey guys, please hang in there. She's joining in a moment. Yeah, also on GMAT Club, there is, interview debrief. You can all check it out. It has all the past questions that were asked in real HBS interview. And you can just see which user has posted them, go through them all, and be more prepared for your upcoming interview at HBS. There'll be a link here shortly. Yes, the one that's posted. Also, like the recording for this session and the sessions which we recently hosted are available on the events page. So feel free to check those out. And we also have other sessions during the week, like today's Harvard, as you all know. Next we have Ross, Yale, Fuqua, Johnson, Darden, Haas, and Booth, Columbia, and all these start at 8 a.m. PT. So feel free to uh, chime as well. Yes, it will continue. There's some technical glitch, and Maria will be right back in a moment. So please hang in there because I know that like this session would be really good. She's a HBS alum, and I'm sure she has a lot more to cover in the remaining of the time. And feel free to post your questions in the meanwhile, and I'll take them as soon as she comes back. Pratik, Devul Pelli, congratulations. I think it's a phenomenal score. Are you applying this year or what's the plan? Also, guys, whosoever stays in the call, you will receive the previous HBS interview recording as well, and this one, and other preparation material for your interviews and for HBS after this call in a day or so, 20 in 12 hours, and then you can go through that as well. And while we all wait for Maria to come in, if I were to ask you, what is that one word that you associate HBS with? Is it like leadership, impact, case method, or Boston? Oh, yes, like I have heard in a week, they generally have like 12, I think 4 cases. Yeah, 4 cases per week, and that's a lot. Yes, entrepreneurship as well. So guys, we'll wait 2 more minutes, sorry, and if it doesn't, then unfortunately you'll have to end the session. But we are going to plan the session again with Maria, and I hope to see you all there. Then, of course, we'll try to host it before the interview date so that you can get the best of it and be more prepared. Hi, Yuan. Sure, Satvik, thank you for the feedback. I'll push this forth to have the deferred MBA, the session for the deferred MBA admits. So, guys, I think it's going to take a lot of time, and unfortunately, we have to end our session due to tech issues. Thank you for joining, and apologies for any inconveniences. We'll email you previous HPS interview prep recording, and we'll try to reschedule this session, and you'll soon get an email for the same. So, thank you, everyone. Good day, and I hope to see you in the upcoming sessions and in other sessions of GMAT Club. Thank you. Bye.